Okay, Elizabeth, thanks for joining. You're like the first return guest.
Oh,
So
that's an
congrats.
honor. Thank you.
Um, I've been thinking about anti-Semitism for a long time, obviously, but seeing the way people are going about combating it. The
Mm-hmm.
latest episode of this was the Dave Portnoy thing, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I reached out to you
Mm-hmm.
because I find um, it makes me cringe. This kind of basically for people who don't know, uh, Dave Portnoy, the owner of Barstool, has a bar in Philadelphia. Some kids in a VIP section put a sign up. I guess you can do that if you get a VIP table. And it said, fuck the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids were like partying, and somebody made a video of it, and it went viral.
Mm-hmm.
So he responded by firing a bunch of people who work for him at the bar
Mm-hmm.
and tracking down this kid. He made a video of, the fallout from it. And he said this kid was crying. He's a student at Temple University. And he wants to send this kid to Auschwitz, like pay for him to go visit Auschwitz, is getting like Bob Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, involved, who does a lot of this stuff. And for me, this is like another incident of like this kind of tattletale-y, scoldy approach to anti-Semitism that I think actually, if you want to create more anti-Semitism, like force a kid to go to Auschwitz and have him do like a book report about it. And there are others examples of this, like just asking for support. There's like a neediness and a
Victimhood.
victimhood to it, and
Yeah.
it makes me cringe.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get your opinion on this. First of all, like, do you agree with that? Do you get that feeling also? And if so, like, what is the right approach to this? Like, how should American Jews? I think American Jews should own guns and project strength
100%
and not
strength.
and stop the complaining. But I want to
100%.
get your opinion on this.
So my motto on the response to anti-Semitism is strength only. Period. The approach from a lot of my liberal friends who have been lifelong Democrats and were so hurt by the party basically turning on them, or their progressive friends turning on them. They were so hurt by that. And they were like, I stood with you during BLM, and I stood with you for gay rights, and I stood with you for all your issues, and you're not standing with me now. Now I'm the victim, and I'm alone. As if that was some shocking revelation to them, where that has always been the case in the history of the Jews, that we always are standing alone. In America, we do have a lot of allies on the Christian right. And I think that that relationship is very strong and it's very important. And the left, especially the Jews on the left, they reject it. That's a huge strategic mistake. But so going back to the Dave Portnoy situation and what happened at the bar, what would you have thought would be a better response than what he came up with?
Not to make like a bitchy video about it. Maybe send the kid to Israel, to a nightclub there with like beautiful Israeli women and Western culture.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
but the complaining, I don't know what the answer is in this situation. But the complaining is so unsightly. It's such a bad look. Um, and I mean, definitely no video. And pre internet, like, this would be a nothing, really like a nothing incident.
You think so?
I think it would be it would be a local scandal in
Well,
like the Temple University
what
community. But I
yeah.
wonder, like, does Dave Portnoy, like, does he exercise his Second Amendment rights? Um, like, and for me, any Jew in America who doesn't own a gun, like people say, never again is now. Never
Mm-hmm.
again is now. If you don't own a gun, then you don't believe that. For me. Like you've outsourced your security and your
Yeah.
sovereignty.
Yeah.
I saw something yesterday that spoke to me, which was this guy at the Met Gal. There were all these like leftist Palestinian protesters.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy stood there, this like pro Israel guy, he was like pretty muscular dude,
Yeah.
and just stood there like an inch away from them.
Yeah.
And they started kind of, he didn't attack them or anything. I'm not like advocating for violence,
Right.
but he just kind of, his presence, that was like a kind of show of strength.
Show of strength.
And I don't see that. The only instance where I saw that, and this is like the second question for you, is last year at UCLA
Uh-huh.
with the encampment, there were counter protesters that were mostly Persian Jews
Yeah.
who I think still have a masculine culture.
Yes.
So what happened was a girl was hit by a battery or something, an object during the day
Yes.
when they had, you know, protests and counter protests. That night, the Persian Jewish men,
Correct.
they didn't complain or make a video about it and tattletale and want someone to intervene on their behalf. They showed up and like it was like a physical kind of thing, but there was like that was like a healthy masculine response to something. So I feel like outside of, you know, Persian Jews and some segments of the diaspora, are American Jews like wimpy? Like, is that something that you see? Did everyone go to Israel? Like, are all of the tough people in Israel?
I would say that liberal Americans, no matter what their background is, if they've bought into this oppressor oppressed, we need to lift up the victims, we need to give them voices. When you their worldview is that you protect these people that have been victimized by society.
Vulnerable.
Right, but it's a false perception of who really is vulnerable in America. Like it's an exaggerated perception about, you know, certain minority groups or, you know, something like that. And so to I just think that it's not necessarily a problem in American Jewish culture. It's a problem with the liberal perception that has invaded all these, you know, subcultures. So, for example, in a lot of American Jewish institutions, they focus on Holocaust education as the antidote to anti-Semitism. They've been doing that for many decades, and that is failing. We are seeing it in real time failing. And then once, you know, another group like the Marxist Teachers Union gets a hold of or control of curriculum in American schools, then they teach Palestine. Like literally, they have a curriculum called Teach Palestine that they're infusing in K through 12 education in the United States. And whatever we have been doing isn't working because that is now becoming, you know, more prevalent. Also, the Holocaust obviously is a very important historical event, but in my Jewish American education, for example, it was like a lot about that. I know so much about the Holocaust, but I didn't learn a lot about the history of the founding of the State of Israel. And I think that is equally, if not more important now for Americans, not only Jewish Americans, but for all Americans.
Why?
To understand. Because first of all, it's important for everybody to know historical, accurate facts and the story of the founding of the State of Israel and the Arab-Israeli conflict is not taught accurately. That's number one. Number two, the Israel and the founding of the state of Israel as a Western democracy in the Middle East as a stabilizing force in a historically unstable region is important for American national interests. We have shared history, culture, religion, economic interests, enemies. And so to not understand those interests in that region as Americans and how Israel came to be and how they were, attacked by the Arab nations around it, how the Arab nations use Israel, and they use Israel, and people do it in America as well. And a lot of it is propaganda operations coming from these Arab nations like Iran and Qatar. But the Arab world uses Israel as something to focus attention outward, as like this unifying thing to hate, when the reality is they all have competing interests. They've never really gotten along, all, these different Arab nations. And somehow hating Israel is the one thing that they can all agree on. And so they keep the people in those countries focused there.
But why should, this is coming up a lot on the right, and it's a legitimate, I think we saw this with the Douglas Murray, Dave Smith conversation.
Yeah.
Why should Americans care about Israel? It's a foreign country. Why should American taxpayers, why should we give aid to Israel? And I don't think that case is being properly made. It's astonishing to me that the Jews are losing the PR war. Wow. We're supposed to be expert at all of this stuff. But one thing that I feel it myself. I probably had a similar education to you. I think people have Holocaust and Jew fatigue. I think there's been so much in popular culture, the Steven Spielberg, being bludgeoned over the head with the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jews. I'm not diminishing it at all. But I think people have this reaction to it. They're just there's a fatigue to it. So I think a lot of this has to be rethought. It's not getting, the Jews in America are losing, I think, younger men on the right. I just see this isolationist movement, the Tucker Carlsons, even I guess Tim Dillon is a centrist, but he's an influential person. And the Candace Owens people that have this idea about isolationism that I think is just as childish as leftists.
Yes.
As if we can just take our ball and go home and not be involved in international affairs. Mm-hmm. And I hear things I was listening to the Candace Owens, Tim Dillon podcast, and he's well, I'm against blowing up babies. Mm-hmm. It's yeah, everybody is.
Right.
What is this is just as childish as a 14-year-old Marxist. This kind of conversation. To me, the world is it's a chessboard of interests. There are competing interests. We're at war with China, with Russia, everybody's intelligence services. We're fighting over resources. I don't believe in getting involved in foreign entanglements that are unnecessary.
Right.
But how can Jews, how can you reframe this? Because it feels like the PR war is being lost among Americans and especially on the right.
So I think that, again, coming down to an education of historical facts goes a long way towards inoculating young Americans against people what Candace Owens is saying, because if you do have this foundation of historical facts and you listen to them, you notice what they're not saying. For example, they don't really talk about the alliance, the red green alliance, where it's like Iran and all these communist countries like China, Russia,
Mm-hmm.
North Korea, like adversaries of the United States. These are hostile actors to the United States. We didn't choose that. They chose us, and they are at war with us. We are with America. It's not just that they're at war with Israel, like Israel is our younger brother, that America has to stand up, and back up Israel, and that's why we're involved. That is not the case. They have killed Americans. They're trying to disrupt global shipping routes. They export terrorism all across the nation. China and Russia are adversaries on other scales, and they're working together with Iran. They are already at war with us, and it's up to us to either ignore that and there will be consequences for that, or to acknowledge it and preemptively position the United States and its allies in a way that creates peace through strength, a deterrent effect on their aggression. The appeasement with Obama didn't work. Biden reversed so much that set us back so much in flesh, in blood, in money, in the maps of Europe. So it's and then when the United States withdraws from the international stage, then a vacuum is created, and other countries are gonna step into that vacuum. That's inevitable. So it's better to be us and strong than someone else.
Matteo, are we?
It is 11:57.
Okay, thank you.
Right. One of the other things that I think I remember you posting about, there was this dispute about are Jews good allies for the conservative movement and MAGA, and that there should be kind of horse trading within the party and within MAGA in exchange for support of Israel.
Right.
What are your views on that? Are Jews good allies to MAGA? Should there be concessions? Are Jews supporting other aspects of the MAGA platform should that be a dynamic for support?
Okay, so what I said in that post was, so the original post was, the right wing basically supports Israel in exchange for as if we're in a negotiation with the Jews, between MAGA and the Jews. I don't see it that way at all. I think that MAGA is a coalition of a bunch of Americans who want to make America great again because we're Americans, not because we have these ulterior motives that we are helping the MAGA agenda in exchange for support for Israel. And you need to look no further than President Trump and how he handles foreign policy and how he sees Israel and the United States' partnership and relationship as integral to the United States foreign policy. The reason that all Americans should be supportive of the agenda in the Middle East is because it is a policy that's in the United States' best interest. It's not because it's good for Israel. Israel is capable of doing what's in its own best interest, which we just saw this morning when it attacked military targets and the airport in Yemen, which doesn't exist anymore. They have no more airplanes because they sent a missile strike, I think it was on Saturday night, at Israel, and it hit near their international airport, civilian targets. And so now Yemen has no airport anymore. The point is that Israel can do what it needs to do in its best interests, and the United States should be doing what's in its best interests, and supporting Israel is part of that. Not necessarily just supporting Israel, but having a close relationship with Israel, because the United States also benefits from Israel. And I also posted this. There's like a long list of things that the United States benefits from Israel in terms of intelligence in the region, military technology, having a stable presence in a unstable region, that the United States, still, like, the global oil market is still very important. Even if the United States becomes energy independent, what's going on there is important. And the fact that they are still committed to terrorism against the West and immigration, into Western countries and changing them from within. So what I said there was that this is not a negotiation between us and you guys. We are in the coalition. I'm a conservative American. I happen to also be Jewish, but I am a conservative American that's part of the MAGA movement, and I'm not here to negotiate, concessions or, tit for tat or whatever it is for you guys to support Israel. Like, we should all be on the same page about this peace through strength agenda, and Israel is important to that.
Yeah. I think it's probably the case, though, that if you're not Jewish and you're part of the MAGA movement, that you would see that MAGA Jews have like an emotional and spiritual connection. So that's part of their interest also, which, non-Jew MAGA people don't have.
Well, the Christian people do. Christian people do.
Yeah, some of them do. There was like there was a recent like Tucker Carlson episode on dispensationalism or something, but the connection, like the heart connection to Israel, is specific to some Christians, but to the Jews in the MAGA movement. But I guess your position is like it's a match for American interests and American foreign policy.
Yeah.
So that's like, to me, that's the case that has to be made. I think Jews miss this, like nobody cares about your spiritual connection to Israel. It's a foreign country for Americans. Like it's a foreign country.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that, in Judaism, you don't try to convert people.
Right.
And Jewish communities can be like sort of closed off.
Yes.
Culturally.
Yes.
Do you think that's like a detriment to? I have this thing where I feel like a lot of these like right wing influencers, they just like don't know any Jews.
They don't know any Jews. Yeah.
Like Nick Fuentes, I just think he's like doesn't know any Jews.
He's a kid.
Yeah. So do you think that's like part of the problem, is that Jews are closed, and there's been this debate about like Jewish supremacy, but it is a thing that Jewish communities are closed. They're not interested in like converting people. Like, do you think that's an issue as well?
Well, okay. I think what's at the base of your question is, are we and how we are behaving as Jews contributing to the anti-Semitism against us? I don't believe that that's a winning strategy, because I believe that anti-Semitism is a losing battle for us to try and erase it or eradicate it or convince somebody out of it. Because I believe that it's been prevalent in every, country that we've lived in for our entire history. And so we're not going to solve that in 2025 by looking inwards to like, what are we doing wrong to make everybody hate us? Like, it just is. It exists. I think that the reasons for why Jewish communities are so insular is internal pressure to be close. We have strong communities. We believe that in order to continue the existence of the Jewish people, that we have to marry each other and produce Jewish children. And we have customs, and our religion is different, and so we live together in small, close communities. But at the same time, we live together in small, close communities because we're not necessarily accepted by, other communities or other people in the countries that we live. And so there is both the internal, where we want to be close to each other to build our strong connections with one another, and also an external force that kind of keeps us in ghettos, or modern ghettos, or in actual ghettos, like in Europe in the past. I don't think that there's anything that we can do to make people love us. I think that, again, going back to teaching history accurately, I do think knowing Jewish people helps. Like, I remember in college, so my family on my mom's side were Persian Jews. And I went to college and met another Persian guy who's not Jewish, he's Muslim, and he was from Orange County. And he's like, I've never met another Persian Jew before. I didn't know you existed. Like, it was blowing his mind.
Yeah.
And I knew he liked me, and I knew he didn't have any problems with me, but like there would be like you people, like there was a lot of this like, and I had a roommate also. It was like, you Jewy people, like they would say these comments. Like, I don't think that they hated me or hated Jews. I just think that they see us as different, and that's okay with me. I mean, it is.
Yeah. There's like a questioning of loyalty also. Like, I experienced, like, right after October 7th, I was at Erewhon, and I drive a pickup truck and have like an American flag thing on it. And I was getting in my car, and this guy practically, it would have been like a gun drawing incident, like a carjacking. And this guy just like stopped me, and he's like, "Who are you loyal to?" And I'm like, "What?" And I remembered like a Candace Owens thing had just come out, and I'm like, oh, this guy saw like the Candace. I know exactly who this guy is. We had this great conversation. It turned up, but he asked me, he's like, are you loyal to the United States or Israel? And I'm like, I'm an American.
Right, we're Americans.
And he couldn't square in his head. I have a little dog too. He's like, you have a lifted pickup truck, a little dog, and the American flag, but like what? It just wasn't making sense to him. But I think that there is that suspicion of loyalty.
Yes, that's existed everywhere as well that we've ever lived. There's a lot of countries that have dual citizenship.
Do you think dual citizens should be able to hold political office in this country if you're like an Israeli citizen and any citizen for that matter?
Right, that's a really good question. And we have members of Congress and Senate who are, I don't know if they've given up their prior citizenship or their dual citizenship or not, but I know there are people who are like, not born in America who are elected to office. I don't know. I haven't really given it that much thought because I'm not a dual citizen. I'm an American citizen.
Yeah. And what do you say about like, this is a common thing also, like AIPAC, like the Jews control all of our politics through AIPAC. Everyone has to just like follow the line on Israel because of all of this PAC money. Like, is that?
Well, they don't. I mean, you saw it this week or yesterday with MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and some others who kind of, and Massey, like, they criticize and they say what they want to say, and nothing happens to them. Like they're still elected, and so it's not true that AIPAC or Israel controls the the notion of that is just ridiculous on its face. It just goes back to Russian propaganda from 100 years ago, that or even further back, that the Jews control the world and the media and the this and the that. And it's not true. If we controlled everything, like October 7th would never have happened, And then they get really deep in the conspiracy that they let October 7th happen, for example, or they knew about it and didn't stop it. And so there's there's nothing that we can say or do to disprove these conspiracies that have endured for our whole history. The only thing that we can do is maintain our strength, our position, our contributions to the world, and to the nation, which we punch above our weight for sure. We're overrepresented in that arena, and I think that what gives me first of all, by the way, going back to AIPAC, the money that comes from the Israel lobby as they like to call it, is 10th compared to other countries. Qatar is up there, it's 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. So it's not true that it's the most money. It's not true that it's the most influential. It's not true that everybody has an AIPAC guy. These things are just not accurate, but because people are inclined to believe lies about the Jews, that these things they endure.
Mm-hmm. And what about another thing has been First Amendment stuff around the pro-Palestine movement in the U.S. I remember Dave Rubin posted something after France had banned one of the political parties in France. It was borderline, and my reaction to that was you're only free speech when it suits you. You're not really free speech if you support shutting down a political movement, whether you agree with it or not. Where is the line for you on that? And have any Jewish groups overstepped that? And I think it's horrifying, and these people don't understand freedom, and it's a huge problem. But where do you come down on that? Where's the line?
So the United States is unique in our First Amendment rights, that Europeans don't understand.
Yeah.
Canadians don't understand. How can this be? I had to have a conversation with a friend that hate speech is not illegal in the United States, and they're like, what, really? It's something that even Americans don't understand necessarily, especially because we just came out of a very strong censorship culture where there was a lot of things that you couldn't say without getting canceled. I think that we have to be careful that we don't allow our laws and freedoms to be used in a way that is undermining our country. And speech and First Amendment is not the way to do that. It's usually the money. So trying to shut down speech is not the way to stop people from undermining the country, because that's just, there's too many issues there. But the reason that this came up in the news this week is because there was a bill proposed by the Republicans that expanded an existing law that protected American companies from being coerced by foreign governments to boycott Israel. Or actually, I take that back, to boycott a list of at least 20 countries that currently countries are boycotting each other. And Israel is one of that on that list. And then they wanted to amend the law by adding 3 words that it could be a foreign government that can't coerce an American company against its will to boycott another country, or an international organization. So like that would be like the EU or the UN.
So if you operated in Israel, you'd be blocked from operating in another market. So it'd be preventing you from that blockade in that market.
It would be like an American company wants to do business with a European country, and in order to do that, the European country is requiring that American company to boycott, in this case, Israel, for example. So people, there was this narrative that originated from Al Jazeera, that said that the Israel lobby wants to put Americans in jail for deciding to boycott Israel. And that is not at all what the bill says. And then Americans like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they ran with it without, and if you read the bill, you knew instantly that is not accurate. But then they were successful in shutting down the bill by falling for Islamist propaganda against Israel. And it was actually the opposite of what they were saying. So the criticism of the bill was that it's not letting Americans, boycott products. And that's it specifically, the underlying bill specifically allows for that. If an American company or American consumer wants to boycott a product from a country, they are absolutely allowed to do that. That's their First Amendment right. But what the bill is doing was protecting American companies from being coerced against its will to engage in a boycott that it doesn't want to. Right.
What did you? I did want to ask you what you thought of the Douglas Murray, Dave Smith conversation debate on Joe Rogan and the fallout from it, like the expertise versus podcaster kind of debate. Like, what was your reaction? Did you watch the debate?
So I didn't watch the whole 3 hours, but I watched, a lot of the clips, obviously the one that went viral about like, you've never been there and stuff like that. I think that there was a lot of dynamics that day. I thought that it was kind of BS that Rogan had Dave Smith there at all.
Why?
Because normally it's the conversation is between Rogan and Douglas Murray, and my understanding is that that's what Douglas Murray was expecting. But then Rogan insisted on having Dave Smith be there and like have so he kind of it wasn't what Douglas Murray was walking into a situation that he wasn't expecting and didn't really want to engage. He wanted to talk to Rogan. He didn't want to talk to Dave Smith. And then once they did engage, I think that I love Douglas Murray. I think he is very smart. I've heard him speak many times. I think that he lays out the case about what's going on in the West in general. It's not necessarily about Israel. I think the case that the West is under attack right now, and I also believe that and agree with him. I think that debating someone like Dave Smith, they got bogged down in these like tangent discussions, which often happens when the person that you're debating has a misunderstanding of the facts, like Dave has. So then they get caught up in like debating the facts, like trying to set the table for the facts in order to debate the arguments, and then they can't get past that. And so then the attack is like, well, you never respond to the merits of what we're saying. You just, you end up in these like side discussions. Like, can you have an opinion on something if you've never been there? I think what I took from that, and the way I probably would have said that, is you're getting all your information, which is wrong, from one biased side. And so either you have to seek out information from, a diverse range of sources, before you can be adequately informed to form your opinions and use your platform responsibly, and stuff like that. And one way you do that is by actually going there and seeing it for yourself, because everybody knows that when you go to Israel and see it for yourself, you know it's not an apartheid state. You know that Arabs have equal rights to Israelis in Israel. You know that, Jews can't go into the Palestinian territories because it's not safe. And so, you can see with your, you have to go into the bomb shelters when the, sirens start alarming. So it being there just clears up so many misinformed ideas about what Israel actually is.
I thought, well, I kind of have two minds about it. Like, you have to debate whoever you have to debate, like, based on the fact. So I don't think debates should be like gate kept. That someone like Dave Smith should be, like, his opinion is not invalidated. So, and I think Douglas has become, I was like an early Douglas Murray person, like a 2015 Douglas Murray person. And like, he wrote that book, The Strange Death of Europe, and was like called a Nazi in the UK. It was like a fringe person. So now to hear him called like a neocon by people, I think is like so disgraceful and ridiculous. Like, he's really stuck his neck out, and it was like very brave. At the same time, I think he's become so famous after October 7th that he's like, I went to his event here in Los Angeles. I really like him, don't get me wrong, but it was like a bit, I don't know. I think he came across a bit like he was above debating someone. Third point on this. I agree also. Like, I've lived abroad 3 times. I speak like 2.5 languages. You don't understand a place truly unless you've lived there and speak the language or have some kind of connection. Like, you just don't have the same depth of understanding. It doesn't mean you have the right to gatekeep a debate. But like you said, if you haven't been to a place, you don't really, like, you don't fully grasp it.
Yeah, I mean, you can still have an opinion, but like with some kind of self-awareness that you, and humility,
right, the humility
that like you don't know
this is
everything.
Precisely the point is, like, I think Douglas was like pushing on him, like, you haven't been there, like, you've been talking about this for 1.5 years and like presenting yourself as an expert, but you haven't had like the humility, you haven't like framed your opinions with any kind of humility. I think that's what he was saying. But I like both of them, actually. I think Dave Smith is like super smart and a great debater, but also Americans in general, like, this is something about the right in America. There's like, I think, a lack of curiosity about like other countries. Being pro-America is kind of like a, when I was a liberal, I went and lived abroad. I was like loved living in Europe. It's completely flipped for me. And I don't think Americans don't have to understand Europe. Like, Europeans don't understand America. Like, we don't have to suck up to Europe.
Right.
But there is like a missing something, like a lack of curiosity, I think, on the right, to explore other cultures, like with depth and learn languages.
I think that's a luxury, and we're not living in a time right now necessarily where the average American, can do that, or has the
But not even average Americans, like, the higher echelon of conservatism in America.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, maybe if you're more nationalistic, you're like less interested in other places. It's not, it's not like a negative.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about California politics now?
Yeah.
So Steve Hilton.
Yes.
Declared.
Yes.
I think I texted you when he
Yes.
did it, because I saw a video of him, and I don't know much about him. I just saw him during the inauguration, he was like hinting at running for governor. And I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but please don't run for governor. Like, you're not the guy. And I've seen, like, I agree with his messaging. I think it's amazing. Make California golden again. Like, he's hitting all of the right notes with a couple of exceptions. But he seems like he's not the right candidate for me. He seems like the person that should be running someone else's candidacy, like he did for David Cameron. And one of the two of the things that jumped out at me. One was like a video he did at the Tenderloin in San Francisco, where he was like hugging this homeless woman and like really American politic, like play acting at compassion. That's what I perceived with this woman. And I just thought, like, with his, with his style and his bracelets and stuff, it seemed like really insincere to me. So that was number one. And then number two, he went to Bolinas, which is up north of San Francisco, and was like, I'm going to the most liberal place in California to talk to people. I'm like, cool, great idea. Bolinas is a libertarian place. It's like hippies with guns. That's what Bolinas is. He should have gone to Berkeley. So that showed, to me, I was like, oh, you're showing that you don't understand, like you don't know California, because he is an American citizen, but he's a Brit. Like, what is your view of him and like the candidate field for Republicans? Because it looks like Kamala is going to run. Like, is Rick Grinnell going to run? Is there anyone else, or do we have to like throw our lot in with Steve Hilton?
Okay. I also like Steve Hilton when I listen to him talk about policy. He actually knows California policy very, very well. Wrote a book about it. I have been watching him at events for over a year now, because he's been coming around to the Republican stuff. And I've always had, positive interactions with him. You said there was a couple things you didn't agree with, but I want to hear from you about those. I also like the other candidate who's running, Sheriff Chad Bianco.
You do?
Yes. He is, he's elected. He's already elected to office. Steve Hilton is not. He has a very, very strong, support within the grassroots of California, which is very important. He's a law and order candidate, obviously, and he's very popular in Riverside, where he's from. He had a huge role in passing Prop 36 in California. So he also like understands policy and like how it gets made and stuff like that. As a Republican, I am happy with our field right now that our two, front runner candidates on our side are both, first of all, they're supportive of President Trump. They're not running away from him. That's new for the Republican Party in California. That's a very positive development. And number two, they're both very polished. They're both, I know you think that Steve Hilton may not be as relatable, but Sheriff Bianco, definitely is. They're both family men. They're fathers. They're, there's all these positive reasons, and they're both fighting for restoring California to normalcy, affordability, and safety, which is like the top, like. But
can Steve, like, does his British background, like, is this an issue or not?
When he first declared, I didn't expect it to be as much of an issue as I'm seeing, at least online. Like,
people like me
online.
Are making an issue.
It's not only you, but it's not only. I mean, people are saying like the person who runs for governor of California should be born in California. I mean, that's
there'd be nobody to run.
Like, would you rather have Kamala Harris? I mean, would you rather have 12 more years of whatever Gavin Newsom was? Like, you live in a situation of alternatives, and whoever the Republican candidate is going to be better than whoever the Democrats put up. And you asked me about Rick Grinnell. I think, Kamala is a big question mark. Everybody is waiting for the decision about what's going to happen. And I've heard Rick Grinnell say it in person that if she decides to run, I would have to take a look at it. And I think that probably he would run. And then it's like
him and Steve
a
Hilton
completely
would be
different
like
dynamic.
I mean,
it would be a completely different dynamic, and you would have to see. The party and the establishment is very, very powerful in California. Very powerful. Whoever they put their money behind and put their time and attention behind, that person is going to become the nominee.
mm-hmm.
You saw that with the Steve Garvey race, for example. Garvey declared late, came out of nowhere, completely cleared the field on the Republican side. And that's because the establishment supported him. So whoever the establishment supports of any of the candidates is who is going to become the nominee. What I would like to see is the establishment wait and see what the voters' reactions are to the candidates and give some time for them to campaign and for public opinion to form about them before they step in and like jam somebody down everybody's throats.
When would that be? Like, when would the cutoff be for that?
Okay, so the primary is in June of next year, and it's May. So we have 13 months.
It's so early.
It's very, very early.
Yeah.
There's going to be so many things that happen in between now and then. Definitely whether Kamala runs is going to become, a huge factor in who the party gets behind. And then, because we have an open, this is very important actually, because we have an open primary in California, it's possible that 2 Democrats could end up making it through the primary because it's the top 2 vote getters and everybody gets to vote. It's not like the Democrats vote for their candidate and the Republicans vote for their candidate. Everybody gets to vote for anybody. So the Republicans have to be very, very careful that we don't split the vote too much to put us in a position of, Kamala versus even further left progressive.
Yeah, you've
that
got
would
to
be
circle
like
the wagons.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah, that would be game over.
Yeah, so the timing, going back to what you're talking about, it becomes very important that the party endorse a candidate before the primary, so that everybody unifies behind that person going into the primary to guarantee that a Republican makes it through and that we don't split our vote.
And is there anyone else out there that would be a dream candidate that we're not talking about? Like, who would be is there anyone in the wings that would be like the dream candidate?
I think Kevin Kiley would be a very strong
He's a little
candidate.
young.
He's very young. He's kicking butt in Congress.
Yeah.
And I heard that he really likes DC, likes being there. And he's only been there, this is now his 2nd term, so it would be, early for him. But he ran for governor in the recall. And
oh, he did?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. But because Larry Elder came in with like a lot of name recognition and stuff like that, Larry Elder became the candidate to run against.
You mean the black face of white supremacy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think last question, I think we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you saw this, everyone's talking about this playground video of this mother.
Oh, Shiloh.
Using like the N-word and the GoFundMe thing, and it's being positioned, talked about as like the end of cancel culture. And people have like, regardless of what the actual event is, have supported her to take the weight out of words. Like, I sort of understand that argument, but to me, it's just like a very sad incident all around, like even for her child. Like, did you see the video? Do you have a reaction to any of this?
It's horrifying all around. There are okay. Cancel culture is when you try to ruin the life of somebody who holds a different opinion than you. The wrong opinion, wrong think, right? There are certain things in life where, there's right and there's wrong still. You can have a difference of opinion from me. You could think the wrong thing, but that doesn't mean morally, like ethically, that it's wrong. Like, you're entitled to a different opinion and a different point of view. What she did to a child is clear that that's wrong, what she did. That's black and white to me as a mom and like a normal person. And so, I mean, to try and protect her or reward her, which is what they're doing, is insane. And I think trying to justify it is a very bad use of our time and energy and distracting to what we are trying to do, which is, may I remind you, save America and Western civilization.
Right. I think people see it as like it's like the leftist game with language and like criminalizing and ruining. Like, I don't think this woman should have her life ruined. Like, I don't think she should like fear for her safety
No.
because she said something like in a bad moment on the playground and is being hounded by this guy who clearly like also wanted to get a reaction out of her. Apparently he's like has a checkered past himself.
Right.
But I find it bizarre that people are like donating money and like
So
rewarding.
much money.
Yeah, it's just like bonkers to me.
Same thing with the high school stabbing and that they're donating to
yes.
the. I mean, that's like, both are weird and bad, and I don't really want to talk about it. I don't want to get distracted.
Right.
I don't want to get I mean, no, I don't mean like, don't ask me about it. I just mean that like, this is not an effective use of our time
Right.
and
This
attention.
is like but it is like, it's a cultural event.
Yes.
I suppose.
Yes.
I thought it was a fake video initially.
Yes.
I was like,
some
these
people are like,
know
they're,
each other.
yeah,
and, like,
I've heard
they
that
did
too.
This for like, this is like a brilliant setup.
I've heard that too.
So I wouldn't be shocked like if that were the case. But I think we're out of time. Elizabeth, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for